Hello, my name is Liv Tyler. I'm an abstract intuitive painter, graphic designer, and streamer, and today I am here at my gallery show, Transformations in the East Village in New York City, and I am going to be answering all of your questions about my show, about the art world, about my career, and kind of just anything to do with me and my art and my experiences in New York City. For a little bit of context, this is my gallery show in the East Village. It is a solo show of 20 works that I've created in the past year. The show is called Transformations, and it is about how I've gone through a lot of personal transformation in my life in the past year, as well as how art can be used as a tool to transform emotions and to transform the negative into positive. So the first question is, compared to your last show, how has your current one evolved? So I had a show almost exactly a year ago at this gallery. It was my first solo gallery show. It was February of 2025. I was showing kind of a collection of like the past 5 years of work. It was almost like a retrospective. I still had a theme to it. It was called Reflections, and it was reflecting on the work I'd created in the 5 years and also how like my paintings are a reflection of my psyche. But it was an incredible experience, and it was like such a life-changing experience. It was an incredible opportunity, and I learned so much from that show. The way I curated and hung that show, I had a lot more on the walls because I didn't know if I was gonna have another show anytime soon. So it was a really big deal and something I really wanted to put a lot into. But then with this show, I kind of had more room to breathe. I literally gave the paintings more room to breathe. They're spaced 6 inches apart instead of 4 inches apart. There's not like multiple stacks on stacks. And that's because it was a body of work that was created in the past year, so I didn't have as much time to create the pieces. I still created an incredible amount of work for this year's show, but it's a far more focused group of work, and I took so many of the things that I learned and loved from my show last year and improved upon that and kind of iterated upon that with like the way I curated the show, the way I promoted the show. And just within my work, I feel like my work has become a lot stronger in the past year. I think largely because I have had more time to work. I am now a full-time painter, full-time artist. So while running a business doesn't mean you're painting all the time, I have had more time to paint and to mess up. I strongly believe it's like 1 out of every 5 to 10 pieces is a really strong one. So the more time you have to paint, the more time you have to get to that good piece. And I think that's like where a big part of my improvement has come from. And I've learned a lot of discernment in terms of like what makes a piece good. Just overall, I think my work has improved, and this show is such an improvement on last year's show just because of the takeaways and the things I've learned from my last year's show. The next question is, what is the art scene like in New York City? Do you have to do a lot of publicity to get people to your show? And the answer is, the art scene is very interesting. I could dive into that like further, but to get people to a show in New York City, especially at a gallery like this, we're located in the East Village. So it's a different kind of scene than the Chelsea galleries, which Chelsea is like 25th to 27th Street is where like all those galleries are. And that's where it's really happening. And then there are different pockets of the city where there are other streams of galleries. We are kind of out of the way of any other gallery, so it takes a lot more effort to get people here. We have a far more committed viewer base because of that, because it's a place that's out of the way and people have to make an effort to come here. And that's just been from years of building this gallery. I also work as a marketer and social media and promoter for this gallery, so I am doing our marketing, getting people in the door, and I've helped grow that a lot. So a lot of it is like listing the gallery on different gallery sites, promoting on Instagram, email lists, all of that, as well as like the individual artists. So me today promoting it to other people so that we get people in the door, promoting it to like my collector base, my network, and that's kind of the ecosystem of galleries in New York City. The next question is, are you ever puzzled by the pieces that get the most attention, or does it often meet your expectations? The answer is, for the most part, my favorite pieces are the ones that are the most popular. They are the first to sell. They're the ones that people really gravitate towards, because my favorite pieces, I know the strength of my work and I know what makes a piece good, and I think that is often reflected in my collector base and in the feedback I get. However, everyone has unique tastes. Everyone has unique styles and interests in work. And some of my least favorite pieces have been the first ones to sell. And I think that just goes to show that everyone has different taste. And it's also getting feedback on my work, finding what people love, and hearing what people see in my work has made me increase my appreciation of the pieces I don't like. Getting to hear about work from other people's perspectives has made me see my work in different ways, which has been very valuable to me. But I do think oftentimes I know what makes a piece bad, and it won't kind of get to the final stage before I kind of cut it off. The next question is, abstract art is sometimes considered less accessible to the average person. Do you find yourself having to defend your work more? My answer to that is no. I do agree that abstract art is sometimes less understood. And I do feel like I sometimes have to explain my work a bit more and do more work to find the people that really understand it. But I wouldn't say I have to defend my work. I think that the people who get it, and it's just more work to finding the people who get it. And sometimes I do have to explain myself a bit more, but I think there are two different viewer perceptions. There is like the average person that's not interested in art, and then there is the people in the art world. And I think like abstract art actually has a lot of value and understanding in the art world. And then to average people, to people that maybe don't understand art as much, or to people that like have a preference, abstract art is sometimes something I need to maybe justify a bit more, but it's not really important to me to explain my art and defend my art to everyone. I know that not everyone is going to like my art, and I am okay with that, and it's more important to me to find those people that really appreciate it, and obviously inviting anyone into the room to appreciate it, but not feeling bad if not everyone gets it. The next question is, you are a regular in the art show scene. Do you see a trend in how art shows are presented in the city? Yes and yes. So I do regularly go to openings. It's actually, I think, a really important part of your career as an artist to go to gallery openings, go to gallery events, gallery hop in the city, because it teaches you a lot about how work is presented and how galleries function, and also just opens you up to a lot of opportunities and to meet new people. And yes, there is like a lot of typical things you will see in a gallery, especially blue chip galleries and kind of the galleries in Chelsea. They present their shows in a the space is so much larger, so you see like one work of art per wall, or very spaced out, so that you're really just getting to hone in on that one piece. Something that is typical in galleries is that they won't label the artwork. You have sometimes a price list on the table, but that's kind of all the information you get about the title of the piece, unless you like ask the artist or whatever. There are just like typical things you will see in New York City galleries that are like the higher standing galleries, and then typically the galleries that aren't a blue chip gallery, that aren't in Chelsea, will follow suit with those trends. The next question is, you've built a community by streaming your process on Twitch and sharing life online. How has being watched changed your relationship to doubt, mistake, and risk? And how do you decide what parts of the process stays off camera to keep the work honest and true to yourself? So if you didn't know, I've been live streaming my painting process for 6 years on Twitch. It has absolutely changed my life in the most spectacular and amazing ways. Getting to share my art process live and build a community and have live feedback has been one of the greatest gifts ever. I think it has made me a lot more confident in my work, because I have to be. Because I'm live, I kind of have to be willing to like drive the work towards a good direction, to completing it, to like holding myself to a standard. And I think like streaming, because of that, has like really improved my work in that way. And then also because I'm on social media, and because I live stream 3 days a week, 3 to 4 days a week, and because I share so much of my process online, both on Twitch, YouTube, social media, there have been parts of my process that I've wanted to keep private. And a big part of that is I've made a sketchbook that I swatch and journal about each piece. And I don't really show that on stream. I don't really show that anywhere. It is my thing. Yes, in the future, I'd love to show it at a museum, like a retrospective, or like when I'm dead, like whatever. But that is the one part of my process that I really keep private. Because so much of it is online and so much of it is perceptible and can be perceived, I like keeping little tidbits private. And this is something I came up with like a couple years ago to do, and it's really helped me. And it's also because like, my work that I've created 6 years ago, while I know the intention of the piece and I know the story behind the piece, I wish I had known exactly what I was thinking when I had made that piece. If I thought it was a good piece, if I knew it was going to be what it would become, you know? So that's been a really valuable part. And then another part of that is I sometimes don't work on certain paintings on stream, such as this painting, Torrent. I never worked on this on stream. And that's because certain pieces take this type of energy and this focus that I don't always want to display on stream, because I have to be so locked in and I have to be so focused. I don't want to talk. I am like just with the piece. It's like a really meditative, intense process. And sometimes when I'm streaming, I feel pressured to talk. I feel like I need to be entertaining, you know, I need to be engaging, and I can't do that when I'm working on certain pieces. And I also have a very chaotic but amazing community that sometimes makes it hard to focus, and I just don't want to risk getting out of that zone. So for pieces like this, or pieces that I know are going to be really emotionally charged and take a lot of focus, I do off of stream. And it's also because I like having pieces that I don't work on stream, you know? My art is a very personal, intimate process between me and the piece. And I want to make sure some of that is maintained independent of being perceived. And I think being live while working has been incredibly valuable for someone that works from home. It has allowed me to talk to people throughout my day, like when I'm working on pieces, which isn't something I would typically have. And getting live feedback as I'm working can be really valuable, but sometimes when I'm really locked in on a piece, I don't want that feedback. So again, depending on the piece, I won't work it on stream because I just want to have that time with it. But I wouldn't trade streaming for the world. Streaming has absolutely changed my life. It is one of the greatest gifts I have as an artist, and it is just such a fun thing to do, and I'm so grateful for that space of the internet. The next question is, your show is titled Transformations. When you say a painting's transformed an emotion into something visual, what actually has to shift, be it in yourself or the work, before a piece feels transformed rather than expressed? There is a big distinction, and I think this piece really displays it because this is kind of the crux of the entire series, which is called Sunshine. And when I was painting Sunshine, I wasn't feeling positive. I was feeling negative. I was feeling worried and stressed and despair, and I didn't want to reflect that in a piece. I didn't want that to be my message. And so when I came to the canvas, I was like, what message needs to be expressed? And through this painting, I transformed my negative energy into positive energy. A lot of times my pieces are a direct portrayal of the emotion I'm currently feeling. For example, anger, frustration, whatever. But this one was more where I was processing that emotion, but not necessarily displaying that emotion and transforming it into something else. And that's what a lot of these pieces focus on, is transforming an emotion beyond like what I'm currently feeling. And my pieces also just transform in their process, layer by layer. So that's also kind of where the title Transformations come from. And not every piece really transforms in a emotional or thematic way, but they all do in their process. The next question is, you describe your practice as intuitive, and you've talked about painting as a way to process what words can't hold. How do you listen for what the painting wants? Are there rituals, constraints, or signals that tell you you're on the right track? I think a lot of this just comes from having done this type of art for over 6 years. I've formed the skill to be able to discern when a piece is good or not. There are certain rituals I do before painting, which is typically meditating and just kind of having these different structures set up in my day to allow me to really drop in and be grounded and be in tune with myself, that I think like really adds to my paintings. And a lot of it is just such an automatic process. I sometimes don't feel like I'm in control. I'm just letting the universe or whatever message is trying to come through me into the piece. So a lot of times it feels directed by something else. And if I just let myself drop into that zone, I can just kind of be a vessel almost. And that's not for every piece, but that's for certain pieces where I really feel like I've dialed into something. But I also use techniques and traditional skills in my pieces. I'm looking at contrast. I'm looking at color saturation. I'm looking at balance. I'm looking at all these different shifts in a piece that tell me if it's good or not. And that's how I discern whether or not it needs something else. Does it feel balanced? Does it have contrast? Is there depth in the piece? These are all questions I'm asking myself. Whether it's explicit or not that I'm asking them, they are present in my mind as I'm working. And yeah, my paintings are absolutely a way to express myself that I can't in words. That is why I started these paintings, and it's absolutely changed my life. The next question is, you said you moved towards abstract painting during the pandemic alongside a mental health journey. What did abstract painting give you that other forms of presentation could not? Previous to the pandemic and previous to my mental health journey, I was a traditional painter. I was doing landscapes, I was doing still lifes, I was classically trained. And there was a point where it wasn't really fulfilling me. I couldn't figure out a way to express what I wanted to say in representation. And when it really clicked was during the pandemic. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't go out into the world and get inspiration from other people, from other imagery. I was going internal, and largely because I was in therapy and processing PTSD, there were so many intense emotions going on in myself that I couldn't talk about, that I couldn't express. And I didn't want it to be an actual representation of that pain. I remember vividly sitting down at the canvas trying to and being like, I can't do this. And then I started experimenting with color and movement, and it just clicked. And I don't really think it was a conscious decision, but something just came together, and it's changed my entire life. And it really is the closest way I can express myself. This is just like how I see the world. And it also does allow me the space to talk about things without actually talking about them. Yes, I tell you what a piece means. I don't always say exactly what it means, or I don't talk about certain pieces in their full extent, not because I want to withhold things, but because my paintings, I sometimes can't talk about them, and that's okay. Painting is my way to express myself and to process things, and it has been a tool for healing for me. And abstract painting has absolutely changed my life in so many ways, and I think I've developed such a strong technique in it and such a strong language in it that it just like carries me in my work, and it feels so fulfilling. And now I'm at such a different place in my life than when I started these paintings 6 years ago. I'm exploring different themes. They're far more positive. They are speculative and outward reaching than my pieces used to be. And that's just really exciting. And I just don't know that I could ever run out of things to talk about and express within my work, because every new experience I get, every new person I meet, every new emotion I feel, all lends itself to a new piece. And I've never really made a piece that overlaps in terms of like significant look. And I think that's really cool. And I just like, I'm so excited to see where my work continues to go and how it continues to develop. The next question is, you're also a designer, entrepreneur, running a shop, streaming on Twitch, and thinking about bigger visions. How do you define success for yourself in regards to the bigger picture? And how do you ensure you don't burn yourself out by trying to do too much at the same time? So I will answer these two questions in kind of two parts, because they are kind of two different questions. But I am doing a million different things, and that's an intentional choice. I obviously don't have to be, but a lot of it is because they all feed each other and they all are in the same picture. I stream on Twitch, but I'm also painting, and I do YouTube, but that's capturing my life. And they all are part of this bigger picture and this bigger puzzle that all fits and works together. And because I'm doing so many different things, they all inform each other. It's not like I'm doing two vastly different things. They're all within the creative world, and they are all fueling me towards my bigger visions, which my big picture dreams are always evolving. Right now, they are kind of 2 year, 5 year, and then I have 10, 15, 20 year, 50 year, you know? And those are all different pictures and different visions. And I like to have my sights set on really big goals, but I also like to break them up and break them down into things that feel a little more attainable, because every single goal you're hitting gets you closer to that bigger vision. So breaking them down is really valuable and helps me feel like I'm actually making progress, instead of being like, I want to have my work in museums, I want to have my work in this, and then not getting there and feeling like I'm failing, but like that's like a 10, 15, 20 year goal, you know? So making those goals kind of more bite-sized is really valuable. And a big thing too is that like I dreamed of the life I'm living right now. I dreamed of going to art school. I dreamed of living in New York City. I dreamed of having a solo show in New York City. And it's like, I've done that. You know? So it's like, if I dreamt this and it came true because I worked my butt off, I know that like what I'm dreaming of and what I'm working towards will come true, because it already has, you know? And I think that's just such a cool thing. And right now, my bigger dreams are just to get more space, to have more financial freedom, to be able to work bigger. Like my big dream is to be able to work on like 6 foot, 9 foot paintings, and like that be a huge part of my work. And I know it'll come true. And I think like my bigger dreams haven't shifted too much since I started. They've just kind of grown and evolved, and the steps to get there have kind of grown and evolved. I have also done a lot of work in making sure that I enjoy the present moment and enjoy what I'm actively doing, because I never want to be like suffering and struggling for a vision I have in the future, you know? Like I never want to have my sights set on this and be sacrificing and struggling so much in the present moment where I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, and where I'm like, oh, it'll get better once I have this. It'll get better once I like have succeeded in this. I thoroughly and deeply enjoy everything I'm doing now. And I think that's really valuable, because I don't do it out of resentment. I don't do it out of like, oh, it'll get better. Yes, obviously I have to make sacrifices and do things I don't like. That is a reality of business. However, I have done a lot of mindset work to be grateful. Gratitude is such a big part of it. Always being grateful for the opportunities and grateful for everything on my path, because it just shifts your mindset and shifts your energy. But yeah, the benchmark's always shifting. My like more current goals are to get a studio space or get a larger space where I can paint and not feel totally constrained by like the space I'm in. That is a big goal of mine, and I totally think it's possible, and I'm really excited to get there. And that's kind of like a more recent goal of mine and more current in the future goal. Like that's my next step. And then I have bigger goals of just wanting to make big works and wanting to get into established galleries and wanting to get into shows across the world and travel. And like, I know that'll happen, you know? And then in terms of the burnout, I am very conscious of my energy. I know when to stop. I know when I can push myself. Each thing I do, having so many moving parts, being able to jump from one thing when one thing's not feeling fulfilling or one thing's not flowing, so I can get work done in another avenue and recharge from that separate thing and then come back to it, is really valuable. I don't procrastinate so that I have enough time and leadway to have those roadblocks and to have the moments where I don't want to work on it, so that I'm able to be efficient in the future. And I think so much of it is just knowing yourself. I meditate every day. That's a big part of this piece. I meditate every day. I am very in tune with my body and in tune with my energy levels. And I think that is really important. So I know exactly when I need to stop. I'm also just fueled by my bigger visions and my bigger dreams, you know, and that inspires me, and every moment inspires me. And I just feel so fulfilled by everything I'm doing. And it's a soul calling, you know, it's not work to me. Some parts of it are, but every part of it feels like this part of this bigger dream and bigger vision. And I am so grateful to get to do what I do. I also think I'm a very driven and hardworking person, so that obviously helps, but I know when to rest, and I am working on like even incorporating more rest and being a little more strict with work-life boundaries, but it's a constant learning, and it's also just being kind to myself and understanding and not thinking it's me against me, it's me unified. It's just a really cool thing, and it's taken me a while to get here, and I'm constantly learning. Thank you so much for asking questions. I hope this was valuable to you. I hope you learned something. I hope that I gave you some new insight. Thank you so much for asking those questions. They were so fantastic. If you have more questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I will answer to the best of my ability. I am so deeply grateful to get to do what I do, and I'm so grateful to have had this show. I am so grateful for all of you who support the work I do, and I'm so honored to have you along for the journey and to get to share it with you all. So thank you so much for watching. Again, feel free to leave questions in the comments and I will get back to them as best I can. And just thank you so much for watching.